This is the team right here. The evolution of this team started out with Weezing, Roaring Moon, Gothitelle, Alecki, Flutter. Now, I want to preface something here. I made a tweet saying I have 5 of the mons picked for the PC tomorrow, taking requests for the last slot, anything can work. I posted this on Twitter, and, you know, we got like 35 people replying, got a lot of decent amount of impressions, decent amount of likes. So I asked people to say, what Pokemon is the sauce? Let me know, right? Because again, the team is Weezing, Roaring Moon, Gothitelle, Regieleki, Flutter. All my flowcharts have they don't need any other mon. I've tested Landorus in this last spot. I've tested Annihilape. I've tested Lucario. I've tested Scizor. We tested Grass Ogerpon. I've tested a lot of like different mons in that slot. I've tested Hisui Zoroark. So we ended last stream going and picking Torkoal. And Torkoal was actually picked by a couple of the people in this list. And there are a lot of reasons to validate Torkoal in like a best of 3 open team sheet for a specific matchup, so I decided to go with it. Lo and behold, what happened when I went to the tournament is I brought this Torkoal, I brought my 5 that I've been working on for about a month. You guys have been seeing me use this team on Twitch and YouTube recently, and I went undefeated in Swiss. This is the standings from after Swiss. Now, there's not a ton of people here, but like every single person, like I said, this is a local premier challenge, is like a regional like or better quality player. Like basically all these people played at like Sacramento regionals like 2 weeks before. A couple of these people made day 2. So a few of these names are people you might already know, but they're all very, very good players. And I came out as the undefeated in Swiss, which was pretty nice. From there, I'll get to the comments in just a second. We went into the top cut where I won the whole thing without dropping any sets, which was pretty nice. If you can see the final standings for top cut right there. So I fought AJ in top 4, and then I fought Alex Kwan again in in the finals. Now, what's really funny about this whole thing is that like, so AJ had 2 losses in Swiss. She had a loss to Tyler and myself, and I think that's who their losses were to. But AJ had a loss to me. Alex has only lost to me. Tyler was only lost to me. And then, like, I have to fight the top 4 is them again. So I actually think it's kind of weird. You know, it does make sense. You know, my opponent's win rate pulled them up. And, you know, if they were good enough to only lose to me, they're good enough to beat probably all the other people. But it's just kind of weird that normally what would happen in that situation, if I have to exert resources to beat them in Swiss and fight them again with an aggressive team like this one, you would think that I would run out of ideas, I would run out of steam, and then fighting them again, I would not have any more options, right? But because I'm an experienced professional Pokemon player, that's a +1, I got a lot more tools in the bag than you might think. So today we're going to go over some of those and talk about how I approach like a best of 3 matchup mentality with this team, depending on what our opponents are using, and how when building a team, you really have to factor in not what to do just in best of 1, but in like best of 3. And then sometimes if you have to fight these people again in the Swiss or maybe like a sudden death match, I think there's definitely things that are pretty important that most people don't really go over. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I like this team a lot. I think it's really, really good. Let me answer these questions. Excited to hear this review. You gave me some A+ advice on team building last week, and I upped my showdown rating 150 points. Well, there you go. Yeah, just not letting your opponent do stuff is very, very good. How was Scizor testing? That's who I thought would be the best replacement. So it's weird. I tested Scizor after I tested Annihilape, and I liked the Bullet Punch, right? I really liked the Bullet Punch, but what I didn't like about Scizor was getting intimidated, and what I didn't like about Scizor was the being pinned by Heatran. So actually, after testing Scizor, I replaced Scizor with Lucario, and I liked Lucario better than Scizor. A lot better than Scizor. That being said, Lucario comes with a whole other mess of like not good matchups. So I decided not to even go down that route. Lucario is cool. Was Swiss best of 1? No, it was best of 3. So like people like AJ and Alex, I had to fight 2 best of 3s against, and I won both of them. I won every single round. So let's talk about... I struggled to get in VGC, so there's so many strats now, IDK what to build for. So that's the thing, when you're building a team, this is just like off topic. A lot of the stuff's going to be off topic. We're probably not even going to upload this to YouTube. And feel free to interrupt me if I'm talking about stuff, if you have questions about something you want me to go a little bit more in depth. But when you're building something, what you want to do is like find a board state that like you would be comfortable with, that you would be happy with, that plays to your strengths. And then set up the tools to make that happen. I know that sounds so much easier said than done. For this team, I'll answer that last comment in just 1 second. I wanted a board state where I didn't lose to Swift Swim. Actually, like Swift Swim teams and like rain teams in general were giving me a lot of issues. And so I was like, well, I guess I need Wheezing. That's like the actual only way to say straight up you can't do that, right? And so what do I need to pair with Wheezing so I can actually maximize Wheezing and to where Wheezing doesn't have to do all of the heavy lifting? Realistically, a secondary way to deal with a Swift Swim team is to use Gothitelle, because a lot of the ways people like to use Swift Swim is if they lead like Basket Legion, they want to pivot in their teammate, they want to pivot in that Politoed or pivot in that Pelipper to enable it, right? So if I lead Gothitelle, yeah, they have their Basket Legion, but they can't activate Swift Swim. So if I lead like Gothitelle and Flutter, right, that does a really good job of making it so they can't pivot in the Pelipper, and I can just one-shot their Basket Legion. And you can say, well, then all they got to do is just lead Pelipper Basket Legion. Well, if they do that, I lead Gothitelle and Flutter, and what I do is I just hard switch in my Wheezing, turn off their Swift Swim, and KO their Basket Legion, right? It's one of those things to where obviously there's still so many different ways that we could get outplayed, and the game can go in so many different situations, but what I did there in building the team and setting up the flowcharts for this is I found board states I wanted, and I gave my team the tools to get those done. Bibble asked a question, does winning nowadays feel any different from winning in the past? Like I was talking about, I've top cut multiple regionals, I've won Premier Challenges, I've won mid-seasons, I've done a lot of other stuff. I've done a lot of competitive Pokemon. But I think this tournament win is really, really important, not just because I won, but because I won every round. I won every single round, and I fought a couple players twice, which means like I don't have to have just best of 3 strats, bro. I have to like have best of 5 strats, like best of 7, you know, like it's ridiculous. What made you run Torkoal other than the other weather setters? No, it's actually Trick Room. I added Trick Room to Gothitelle and I added Trick Room to Fluttermane, and it's Torkoal just for Trick Room. I had Ape on that team, right? What made you make that change? Ape was too one-dimensional, and I think I was trying to be too aggressive into the Armarouge. I was trying to be too aggressive versus other Tornadus. I was really afraid specifically of like Steel Terra, bulky Citrus Tornaduses, and I need something I could pair with Weezing to be able to KO them. And at the end of the day, after all the testing I did, I just kept fighting Torns that were still Steel Terra. They were still, or like Poison Terra, something that would block Flutter for the most part. There was something that would give Flutter a problem, or Lecky a problem, and they all still have Protect. So it's like, I can't just go all out on an 8. Let's see. What turn did I win? It was a Premier Challenge. It was a Premier Challenge in Northern California. What made you drop Parrish in the team? Like I said, I think I answered that. I feel like Parrish was only good in like a couple matchups and more so used as bait in the team preview for a best of 1. I just found myself not really utilizing the Parrish aspect more than like 1 game per tournament, and so I just decided to drop it. But I'll go back up and Traumahawks asked this question. Do you keep Lecky in the back for Dozo Tatsu Ability Shield? Actually, I like leading Tatsu into Dozo with Ability Shield. I actually beat someone in the tournament that had Dozo Tatsu Ability Shield. That was stupid. We're going to talk about that. In the first round of the tournament, I'm fighting, realistically, I think the best player there, which is Ryan Chambers, Deagle Beagle. I don't know if you know who he is, but good player. He's been playing like a long time. I don't know if he's like top cut Worlds, but I think he's like done stuff. I think he's either top cut Nats or top cut Worlds. I don't remember, but that was like back in seniors, like 15 years ago, right? So he's just as you know, he's been playing as long as I have, longer than I have. And he used a team that was, here, just pull it up. So his team was attack boosting Tatsu, Fluttermane, Iron Bundle, Torn, Dozo, Chiyu, which is like super aggressive. And his Tatsugiri had Ability Shield, right? So that means Weezing doesn't work, right? Do you know how hard it is to beat like a Dozo Tatsu team when they have like Ability Shield Tatsu, Torn Chiyu bundle? Like, it is ridiculous how aggressive like you have to be with this team against that matchup. And no, like you could still bring Weezing in some situations to turn off Torn, and it's just like a lot of work. Anyways, in game 1, he led Bundle Flutter, and I led Goth Regieleki. So I end up winning game 1 because he goes Bundle Flutter, and a Lecky into that's like really, really good because you can see our Lecky here has Covert Cloak. Now, Covert Cloak is an item you would normally only see play with in close team sheet because you want to be able to make them waste their time fake outing you and then you don't get flinched and then you're fine. But actually, the reason why Covert Cloak's super good on a Lecky is, first of all, that's a really good reason if you're using Lecky in the back and people have like a mid to late game Rillaboom or Iron Hands, they can't fake out you, you're going to get to do your thing. And that's a Lecky's big thing. Lecky needs to be able to do its thing, which is be fast without relying on abilities, without technically relying on items for speed control, and just be a guy that says Electro Web. So Lecky needs to be able to do that to actually have like a good matchup into things. And so saying you can't speed drop me with an Icy Wind if you're using like a booster Flutter or a booster Bundle, I'm not affected by that secondary speed drop from Icy Wind, which means I'm going to get to do my thing. So when I lead Lecky into Flutter Bundle and they go Icy Wind, like Dazzle and Gleam, whatever, I soak the Icy Wind, take like 20%, and then I Electro Web. Now they're slow, which means now when I bring out my Flutter, I just win the game. Right? Really, really good. I've tried screens the Lecky, doesn't work on. You don't need, it's a thing where if they kill the Lecky, which they did, I bring out my Flutter and my Flutter just wins the game, right? So that's kind of how game 1 went. And remember, you can't switch your Bundle out because Goth, right? So it's still really, really good. I like it a lot. So I ended up winning game 1 in a pretty convincing fashion. I think they said that like they didn't take into account like the Covert Cloak and Lecky because it's so weird, right? And then in game 2, they opted to lead with Bundle Flutter again, and again they have Dozo Tots in the back, and I go with I think I go Lecky. No, I go Lecky again. Yeah, I think I go Lecky Roaring Moon, so I can just go straight into like Electro Web plus the damage from the Roaring Moon, just like straight, just double KO, just kill everything. And I end up winning game 2, and this is the only thing I'm going to say about this. And if you guys want to disagree with me, I implore you guys to call me out. In game 2, I win I would say pretty convincingly. After the game, I sign the match slip, hand it to my opponent to sign, and he points out an error in my team sheet. The error is that I wrote down leftovers twice. There's leftovers here, and this is a citrus berry. Now, to my knowledge, we didn't stop the game when he noticed that he saw this. He said he noticed it in the middle of game 2, and he did not stop the game, did not call the judge then. But he waited until after he lost to like voice his complaint at this item not being leftovers. Instead, it had an impact in the game, which I will say, from my opinion, had no bearing on the game. I soaked a Dazzling Gleam that let me not get doubled up into, but like I killed your Flutter that turn, so like you couldn't have ever doubled into it. This is my opinion. So the judges actually in that situation came over. There's 3 judges. There's the head judge, and there were 2 secondary judges. And one of the secondary judges was the one dealing with this. And the secondary judge gave Ryan the win in game 2, even though I already won. We already had completed the set. He saw the error and played out the set and lost, and then voiced a complaint. And then they gave him the win. So you can imagine that I was tilted as fuck. I was tilted. And again, I would say you actually can't get a harder matchup than like Ability Shield, Dozo, Tatsu, Torn, Flutter, Chi-Yu. So we play the next game, and I end up losing a close game. Very, very close. It came down to like Dozo barely being alive at less than like 5%. And I lose. So we'll get to that in a sec. So anyways, I lose, and I just get it right up. I throw my stuff in my bag. I was like, you know what you did? You know, like that, like you had to speak up when he can't pull this like I didn't see it, because if he did see it and noticed it, he should have just taken his win right there. There would have been no complaints. So Anyways, I got up, I went right to the head judge, and I explained the situation correctly, which is that, like, he waited until after, because we explained it to the first judge, and I don't think they understood. So I explained it correctly, saying, like, hey, this wasn't handled correctly. I had already won the set. It was way past that time. And they ended up giving me the win, right? They ended up giving me the win. And then Ryan dropped and left, and then he posted, like, a Twitter manifesto, basically called me a piece of shit. You call judges when you notice something right or wrong, but the person is trashy and poor sportsmanship. Yeah, he threw me really bad. But the thing is, I had an error on my team sheet that I think didn't affect the game. And if he would have noticed that in game 2 and said, Judge, team sheet wrong, I'll take my win, I'm gonna be upset, but I gotta follow those rules. I got to, right? You take those, we take those, he takes those. You can't say, like, you can't, like, save that info, because what he did in that game was, he still played it out. Like, he's making me reveal how I handle 50-50 against 2-2-2 Dozo, right? You can't have your cake and eat it too. If you would have said something immediately, it would have been a completely different situation. You can't wait until you lose. Because, like, there was, like, 4 or 5 more turns after the reveal that it wasn't leftovers. And by the way, I used the same Goth in game 1, and it took damage, so he could have seen that it was not leftovers through game 1 as well. And he's holding a team sheet, so it's not like he only had 2 minutes to see it. Like, we played for 20 minutes, you know? You don't hold the team sheet or a hostage in case you lose. Let's go on to the next round. So it was like, I win round 1, and, like, honestly, like, I was tilted because that happened. But I tried not to let it get to me, right? So I go into round 2, and I'm going to be fighting against... not that. Round 2, I'm fighting against Tyler Stuham, which ended up getting second place after Swiss. And his team was really good. Actually, so he made day 2 with this team. He made day 2 with this team at Sacramento Regionals. His team was Wheezing Roaring Moon. Really, really cool team, right? Wheezing Roaring Moon, Fire Ogre Pawn. Wheezing Roaring Moon, Fire Ogre Pawn, Rillaboom. And then on a Wheezing team, he had Dozo Tatsu. And I'm like, crap, his team is just, like, literally mine, but better. He has, like, Dozo on top of the... Oh, my gosh. And again, he made day 2 with this team at Sacramento Regionals. Really, really good player. It was his first time coming to our local. But out of all the people I met, he was, like, one of the nicest people. And he's, like, if we were to play, like, 4 or 5 more times, he'd win all the other games. It is such a cool team. I said, like, when I saw it in the team preview, I was like, I'm stealing this. Like, this is now mine. This team is going to be like that, but with, like, instead of the Rillaboom core, I'm going to use Retro Lucky Goth, and, like, that's probably what this core is going to be. I don't see a situation in which, like, Wheezing Roaring Moon Dozo Tatsu, like, loses to anything other than, like, Wheezing Roaring Moon stuff. Anyways, for game 1, he opens up Roaring Moon Wheezing, and Roaring Moon Wheezing, I feel like that's your go-to opener in a lot of matchups. That's like your S-tier lead. But, like, I feel against, like, other Wheezing teams, you don't bring the Wheezing, right? Why would he want to turn off my abilities? Like, I don't use them in the first place. That's the point. For me, I still have to bring my Wheezing, though, to turn off his Dozo, right? To turn off the Tatsu. His Tatsu is Choice Scarfed. It wasn't Ability Shield. So, I mean, it's dicey, right? So, anyways, we're playing the game. Also, his Roaring Moon was, like, a faster Roaring Moon, but it had Protect, Tailwind, Knockoff, Breaking Swipe instead of the Acrobatics, which ended up being really, really hard for me to deal with because, like, my Roaring Moon just got one-shotted in game 2 of our set by our Breaking Swipe single target. That was ridiculous. But, like, it does great damage to Lecky. It does good enough damage to Wheezing, too. It was actually really hard to deal with that. So, that being said, game 1, he was giving me the business. I was getting absolutely bodied by, like, the fact that, like, his Roaring Moon... Also, we speed-tied Roaring Moon, so we have the exact same speed stat on our Roaring Moon, which is full speed, which is the way you need to run this Pokemon, in my opinion, so you can still outspeed things like non-full speed booster flutters, non-full speed booster bundles, and other things like that. You'd be surprised what you do outspeed with the full speed Roaring Moon using that 119 base speed. I think it's 119. Anyways, yeah. So it was weird, weird first game, but it came down to a situation where he had like Dozo and Roaring Moon on the board, and I'm like, bro, if you try to like swap out that Roaring Moon, who goes burned by, it wasn't burned yet. He basically made all right, all I gotta do is just swap in Tatsu, pop that flutter, and it's game. Because he had like the Tailwind up, he had everything ready to go, right? The turn before, he baited me into doubling the Dozo. I did. He protected, set up Tailwind, and so I'm like, okay, this is just gonna be a Dozo sweep from here. So what I did was I swapped in my Weezing, killed the dumpster, beat the Dozo, and yeah, like if he wouldn't have made that one turn, he could have just stayed in with this Roaring Moon and just like threw damage at my Mons and I would have lost. But he tried to go for the Dozo, and I cheekily swapped in the Weezing, reading the Dozo, reading the Tatsu switch in. Remember, Weezing doesn't stop Dozo, it stops Tatsu from activating and going inside the Dozo. It stops the commander ability from happening. So like, it was so. I had to get so lucky, right, that it was going to happen that turn. I'd go for hard reads. That's the whole thing about this matchup was it was all hard reads. And I am getting the W in game 1. In game 2, so because I won with Weezing in game 1, I knew for a fact that Dozo was not going to be coming in game 2. Remember, his team is Roaring Moon, Weezing, Ogre Pawn, Rilla. It's like Grassy Glide. They both have Grassy Glide. And then like the Dozo Tatsu. So I'm like, this game, it's going to be more Ogre Pawn centered to be able to dumpster the Weezing with like Ogre Pawn and then like Rilla cleans up versus the rest of my Mons. Anyways, also you had faster Mons so you can cancel Commander first. It's not about... No. It's not... Weezing doesn't take into account speed tiers. Weezing just comes on the board and says you don't get your stuff. But that being said... But yeah, I swapped first. Yes, that was the thing. Yeah, I swapped out a faster Mon first. Yes, that was the most important part of like why that worked. I swapped. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, that was a big part of why that last one worked. But anyways, actually, let me see. How did I get a faster Mon? What was up with that? Maybe he didn't have Roaring Moon on the board at that point, or maybe I killed the Roaring Moon. I'm trying to remember the exact board state. Maybe he'll stop by or something and let us know. But like he tried to go for the Tatsu switch. Does Haze work better on Weezing versus Dozo? No, I don't think so. Like, Haze is too much of a commitment, I think. Like, Weezing is a big commitment too, but like, Haze is good, but I don't think it's worth like fitting onto a team anymore. Yeah, how did I stop that thing? Because like, I thought he swapped out Roaring Moon, but he might have swapped out like his Weezing or something. I think it was his Weezing, yeah. He had his Weezing and his Dozo on the board, and then he swapped out his Weezing for the Tatsu, and I had a Flutter that I swapped out. So I think that was what happened. Anyways, game 2, though. I knew for a fact this was going to force the Ogre Pawn Rilla lead. So what I did is I led Gothitelle Torkoal. And I went like straight up fake out Eruption. I have the game 1. It's like a different sort of mechanic where like I'm instead of like trying to match him with like Weezing, Roaring Moon stuff, I'm basically just like not even Trick Rooming, like fake out Eruption into like next turn, like protect the Torkoal, swap out Goth, like rebring out the Goth in a couple turns to like fake out again an Eruption again on Mons that like are vested or don't have Protect. So it's not even Trick Room, it's just like bully Torkoal. Does Neutralizing Gas not activate before Commander, even if you swap in second? Neutralizing Gas activates, but Tatsu at that point will have already given the boost to Dozo, I think. Because, like, it's like Intimidate, right? Commander, right? It activates. You don't take away the boosts that were given from, like, or the stat drops that were given from an Intimidate if you bring in something with Neutralizing Gas after it's already been intimidated. That's my assumption. I actually haven't really tried, but like I'd assume that Commander activates like once, so you have to have Weezing on the board like right then. Because like let's say you had Weezing Tatsu on the board and you swapped out, Commander would activate. If you brought the Weezing back in, it wouldn't unactivate. I don't think. I don't know. So nice room in the room. Yeah, it's a cool one. Anyways, so going into, let's see, how do I even go into this? Anyways, I throw game 2. I ended up throwing game 2. I had a 100% win chance. I ended up like doubling into a Rillaboom on a turn where like I didn't need to, and I ended up beating like a really, really big attack from his Roaring Moon, and I ended up taking the fat L in a situation I didn't need to. I could have just like played really standard and closed it out. But anyways, we go into game 3, right? And so in game 3, I was like, fuck, like that was my shot was to win game 1 through like outplaying the Dozo, and my shot in game 2 was a steal win with Torkoal because I would condition the Dozo not to come. Now that he knows I want to use Torkoal and that it is a good matchup for me to use Torkoal into that team if they don't bring the Dozo, they have to bring the Dozo. I don't want to see the Dozo. The Dozo also had Poison Terra, I think, so it had a good matchup against like the Regieleki and Flutter aspects of my team. I think they were Poison. They were some sort of, no, actually they were Dragon on this one. Ryan's was Poison, but anyways, it's a good matchup versus Lecky, right? So you can't really just go Lecky into it. So that being said, in game 3, remember I talked about in game 2 how my Roaring got one-shotted by a Raking Swipe, and that was really surprising. I realized, like, I was like, oh yeah, Roaring was like weak as shit on the defensive side. So like, we go into this game, right? And like, we're playing the first couple turns. They lead Ogre Roaring Moon, which means like they probably have like Ogre Roaring Moon and then Dozo Tatsu, which is like actually really, really good into our team. And if they had like Rilla and something else, I think that would have still been fine. But I basically bully out the Ogre Palm with my Roaring Moon. And then from there, their Roaring Moon's at like 90%. And so I just one-shot their Roaring Moon with like a Flying Terra Acrobatics. And we were, I knew it was going to KO. I knew it was going to KO. But after the set, and I ended up closing the game out with like Weezing just wisping stuff. But after the set, he was like, yeah, I was just really surprised that like Roaring Moon is so frail on the defensive side. And I was like, yeah, man, you one-shotted me with like a 60 base power move. And so I was like, I can probably do the same thing back, But yeah, like, I did a little bit of chip to his Roaring Moon, and then just the acrobatics like one-shotted. And then from there, he just didn't have like the tempo to get back in the game. It came down to like Weezing Rilla on his side versus like my Roaring Moon and my Weezing. And so I just put Wisps up on both and just like chilled with like leftovers Weezing. So it was cool. It worked out for me. Do I need a shiny Mew? I don't. I'm good. But yeah, really, really good player. Like I said, he made day 2 Sacramento. He didn't make a single real mistake. He talked about how in game 3, he rushed it a little bit. And I don't even think, like, if we were to, like, have these games to look at them on stream, because he would, like, fire Ogre Pawn, and he could have, like, weaved in, like, spiky shields and played it, like, a little bit more patiently and done stuff. But I don't think that what he did was wrong. I really feel that, like, I created a lot of situations where I dangled a lot of stuff that was, like, you could win. You could win right now. Do you want to win, like, right now? Like, right now, right now. Like, it's the sort of thing, like, danger levels, right? Where I really upped the level of, like, every single turn is the most important turn of the game, and if you play passive, I will just double on your teammate. And if you looked back at, like, the first 2 games of the set, like, I was reading his protects and conditioning them and doing that stuff, like, all set. So, like, by the time we get to game 3, you're pretty much forced into I need to attack because every single time I'm getting red on these protects, which is how the team works if you play it correctly. You get people into not protecting. They can't switch. They don't have abilities. They think I have to match his aggression with aggression, and then you punish them for it. Because when they decide to play the aggression game, we are more optimized for that. So why is Weezing more popular now? It's just a control thing. It just says, like, your opponent can't use everything that they want to use, and you get to set the pace of the game by playing Weezing. Same thing goes for like Goth. Same thing goes for like Alecki. Flutter's another oppressive mon as well. Leveled the danger, yeah. So, but yeah, he's really great. He ended up making top 4. I really like his team, and I'm probably gonna actually, honestly, like, take a good look. He was using physical Weezing with Gunk Shot. I like this one with Acid Spray. Why did I choose not to run min speed on Weezing for Trick Room matchups? Because Weezing's fast, and I want to be able to taunt those Trick Room setters so they die. But also, like, I want to be able to always outspeed things like Iron Hands. I want to be able to always outspeed things like Grim, right? So I can taunt those Grims. It's actually a lot of Grim. I want to be able to taunt Grim so he can't just set screens in my face, right? Grim doesn't have an ability, so if I could taunt him, he's just done so. I want to be able to burn Hands. I want to be able to burn those mid-speed Rillas that are made to beat those Trick Room teams. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I like speed on Weezing. Actually, I might put more. I might put more speed on Weezing. I think it's just a really, the next really matchup is against AJ, and they also ended up making top cut, and they had a really, really cool team. AJ has won the We got a raid, yo. Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate the raid. Hopefully you had a great stream. Aja's an amazing player. They've been playing. I don't actually know how long they've been playing, but I've only seen them at these locals this year. That being said, they take the most notes of any player I've ever seen. They never give up. They always make the right changes for like games 2 and game 3. We've played at 2 events now. We played at Hayward, and they ended up making top cut at Hayward. We played here, and I fought them in Swiss, and I'm going to fight them in top 4. And so they're always really, really good. They're highly optimized, and yeah, I think they're absolutely like amazing, and it's just like a matter of time before they're like, you know, making day 2 at everything. Because like they always make the right changes between like games 1, 2, and 3. They don't seem to get like really stressed out by situations. So like the poker face is like there. The like attitude is there. They're gonna do really good stuff. But their team, normally they play like hard TR with like Torkel. They play like Sunroom Spam. The last couple times I've seen them with like Ursaluna. Or actually, they didn't use Ursaluna last time, but they used Sneasler, Indity, Armor Rouge, you know, Lily Cole. No, I think they did have an Ursaluna. But anyways, that's beside the point. This time, though, they're still using Indity, Armor Rouge, but now they're using Annihilate, Sneasler, Greninja, and Tornadus. Really, really cool team. This is using a loaded dice Greninja paired next to a Choice Scarf Annihilate. So they can go for the big Water Shurikens into their Annihilate. Remember, it's a priority move. It's going to hit 4 to 5 times thanks to the loaded dice. To enable a Choice Scarf Annihilate to go for like massive Rage Fists. It's definitely like a best of 1 team. But like they have a lot of really cool things. They also had like Earthquake on the Scarfape next to like Endure Weak Armor Rouge. They had Trick Room on the Entity if you needed it. And, you know, the Tornadus was General Speed Control. The Sneasler was like Psyseeds Abuse with like Unburden. Really, really cool, hyper aggressive, like all in team. Now, and again, they made top cut with this team as well. They took an L to me, and I think they took a loss to the guy that I just fought, or as well, the other Weezing player, right? But I think that's who their loss was. But anyways, in our matchup, I'm highly optimized to deal with that. Weezing shuts off everything, right? So when I'm fighting this person, I'm like, okay, not only do I have to fight this person, but I'm probably going to have to fight this person in top again because they're good. I know they're good. This is round 3. There's one more round of Swiss. So they're probably going to be in top. So what I need to do is actually win without really doing the thing that I need to do. Right? So like, you know, we've made videos where we go over like our S tier leads, our A tier leads, our B tier leads. I'll probably make a video for this team where I do that. What's the best way you found to position at Lecky? I actually think Lecky is a really good lead when you pair it with Goth or Weezing. So when you pair Lecky with Weezing, what it does is it turns off their Tornadus, so you can just kill their Tornadus. A lot of Tornadus is still double dipped that Flying Terra. So they turn off their Prankster and you just go. And if you want to lead Goth, it's the same thing. You have a Fake Out pin, but you can also just switch out Goth for Weezing to where they're Shadow Tagged, they're trapped, they're respecting Fake Out, and you switch into Weezing and go with your Lecky and just pop it. So it's good. Charizard's long still. Well, good. When I went to Worlds in 2017, I got 1 pack of Burning Shadows and pulled the Ghost Rare, the Rainbow Rare Charizard from that set. And I sold that, and that was great. But anyways, we're going into the game against AJ, who had like the hyper aggressive. No Volt Switch? No, you don't need it. So like I want to kill them. Like I don't want to pivot. I want them to die, right? Terry Blast is there to check Lando. So like against Landos, I'm always gonna outspeed Scarf Lando. So when I lead Lando against Lando leads, I can lead Goth Lecky and I can fake out their teammate and KO their Lando with Terra Ice. Even against Flying Terra, they still go down. If they have some sort of weird Terra, I can always fake out them with my Goth to see what they're gonna do and have Lecky go into their teammate. I can throw Electro Webs up into stuff if I need it. Lecky's here to force people to respect my level of speed control and be a secondary level of speed control so Roaring Moon doesn't have to do all the work. Right? Yeah, I don't have any good pivots. Like, I don't want to... why would I Volt Switch? What am I Volt Switching into? Roaring Moon's faster than Lecky, too. So it's like... It's not like I get to Volt Switch in my Lecky... Or Volt Switch out the Lecky to enable Weezing to do stuff with Roaring Moon. Like, Roaring Moon's faster, so it wouldn't really work. Yeah, Volt Switch isn't like the nerf to Transistor really hits Lecky hard. So like Volt Switch doesn't pick up the KOs that it used to. That being said, against AJ though, they led Greninja 8 in game 1, and I led like super standard, like I think I led Goth. You always like, against teams that are like those sort of like best of 1 or meme teams, I think Goth is really good because Goth just kind of comes in and says like, hey, you're not doing your thing. You know, if you want to pivot, if you want to try and like outplay me and swap and bait and do all this, it's like, nope. And like I have fake outs, so like you can't, if you're trying to use like a mon that doesn't have protect, it's dead. Yeah, thank you for the follow. Thank you. And basically like it's just really, really good. And so like I basically just went like, turn 1, I think I went like protect Roaring Moon, psychic the ape, and the next turn just kill the ape because I outspeed. And if they would have taken out the Goth, I would have just brought up Flutter and done the same thing. So it was easy game 1. I played very, very safe. But Goth's also a really good lead into the Armorage, because if they did want to go Trick Room, I can just Trick Room it back with my Gothitelle. So it's really, really good. But then for game 2, what I did was, because I don't want to show like a ton of my options, I don't really want to show that like... Honestly, I think I told them after like I was done playing them in Top Cut, I was like, you should be using Tornadus against me and forcing my Lucky to come, because that makes my team weaker against the rest of the things that your team does well. They had a good Terra on their ape that would have checked my Lucky pretty hard, and made like Lucky like not necessarily like a liability, but it would have made Lucky like basically not helping out its teammate enough, and you could have just doubled into my teammate all game and ignored the Lucky. Can I show my Roaring moveset? Sure. So it's Protect, Tailwind, Knockoff, Acrobatics, and the Knockoff's actually the reason why Roaring Moon works. So you may think like this team just like loses to Hands. Well, if I lead Roaring Moon and Flutter and I knock off your Hands' Vest, you die to the Flutter, right? If I knock off your Citrus Berry before you can use it, you get doubled up on. If I knock off your Covert Cloak, you're susceptible to this. If I knock off your this, you're susceptible to this. It's the fast knockoff. So Wheezing says no abilities. Goth says no switching. Roaring Moon says no items. If I knock off your Choice Scarf, you can't do anything either. Breaking Swipe, Terra Poison. Nah, I haven't tried any of that stuff. I don't think Breaking Swipe is good. That's my opinion. I don't think that it's good. Roaring Moon is not, in my opinion, like, how would I word this? Roaring Moon's job is to set Tailwind. That's it. If I set Tailwind and you kill Roaring Moon and then I bring out my Flutter, that's mission accomplished. Or like bring out Flutter and then like a Lecky, that's mission accomplished. Like we're going to the races, right? We're using Specs Flutter. The whole team is set up for Specs Flutter to roll over after I get speed control, right? So like Breaking Swipe, I don't care about mitigating damage. I'd rather you just kill me and I get a new swap. So that being said, like Acrobatics, the reason we have Acrobatics is to check like the 3 mons that give Flutter problems. Fire, Ogre, Pawn, go die. Amoongus, go die, right? That's Fire Terra, Rillaboom in general, go die, right? Also, the Flying Terra kind of plays in conjunction with this team has 3 ground weaknesses, and having a mon that doesn't have to die to Earthquake, if I need to not die to Earthquake, is kind of nice. Scale Shot's cool. I think Scale Shot's good as well. Scale Shot's awesome. I'd probably actually rather run Scale Shot than Breaking Swipe. That's just my opinion. But back to the game against AJ. So in game 2, I lead with... What do I lead in game 2? In game 2, I do open up Regieleki and Wheezing. I open up Regieleki and Wheezing. And they lead into the Armorage. And they just straight up get the Trick Room up. I go for like a Thunderbolt and an Acid Spray into the Armorage. And they get the Trick Room up. I don't kill the Armorage. And the Acid Spray is pretty important because dropping the Spadef, the Acid Spray from the Wheezing, makes it so they're going to take more damage. And they get the Trick Room up. And the next turn I protect the Wheezing. They kill the Lecky, right? And remember, they got up the Trick Room. And when they got the Trick Room, I was like, oh, you know, I think like, how could I not see Trick Room coming? I just go right into the Torkoal. Oh, just go right into the Torkoal. And remember, this armor is just like at 30% with a double Spadef drop. The Entity's still at full, and there's no sun, right? So what do? I swap out my Wheezing, activate my Sun. Thanks for the side terrain so your Sneasler can't fake out. Pop shot both their mons, but yeah, the next mons, pop shot both those. So it's like, thanks for the Trick Room. Appreciate it. Now, again, I didn't need them to do that either. Like, if they would have not led Trick Room and just led, like, Tornadus, anything, like, Wheezing had the into that thing as well. So, like, what I did is, by winning game 1 in such an aggressive way, I showed that the only way to really stop this from happening again is to, A, try and outspeed it with Tornadus and then do it, which, you know, I led with the lead that says no to that, or B, Trick Room it. And what did I really want them to do? B, Trick Room it, so I could win with Torkoal, right? Because I feel like winning with like a general standard Roaring Moon play and winning with just the Torkoal. So note in those 2 games, I didn't really need Flutter. I didn't really need Goth. what is the thing that I said Goth like is really, really good at is like taking apart those best of 1 meme teams. So like when we played again in in Top Cut, I used a lot more Goth, right? And so I saved what the team really needed to do in those matchups because I knew I was going to fight that person again. And I think they played everything perfectly. I think that was like a not very good match for them in the first place. But like I said, they had the right mentality for it. They adapted correctly in every single situation. And the amount of times I can beat this person is definitely limited. So they're going to be way better than me in like a month, I think. So, and again, they've made Top Cut like back-to-back events. They won the Premier Challenge before that. Is the Lucky 252 special attack speed? It's not. It's 244 speed. Talent speed scarfed you by 1. For the way you play the team, that Torkoal is the king. Who would be your queen? Oh, probably Gothitelle, but like, it's fine. I like this Torkoal set. This is my favorite Torkoal set. It takes minimum damage from Life Orb. The Earth Power is actually really pivotal in still KOing Fire Ogerpon, which is really nice. I got a KO on Fire Ogerpon against the guy I fought in round 2. But let's move on to round 4. Round 4, we're going up against Alex. And right there, right here, we're going up against Alex Kwan. He's actually like one of my very first Patreons, bro. Alex was one of my very, very, very first Patreons. I had to, it was like 2016, and I made my Discord. It was for Patrons only, and it was like me, 2 other people, and Alex, and that was the Discord, like almost 10 years ago now. We've played a few times over the years. I think I've taken the edge anytime it's like a best of 3 like serious tournament. And he's really good too. He's such a good player. I'm so happy that like he still plays the game and still looks at it. And in terms of like people who are like genuinely fun to be around, Alex is great. How many forms of speed control do you have? By that, how many mons can control it? With Trick Room, Tailwind, Electro Web. So we have Tailwind on the Roaring Moon. Knockoff can be used as speed control to control things like sashes. Covert Cloak can be used as speed control to deny speed control from your opponent. Trick Room is speed control because it's Trick Room. That should basically be it, right? Flutter has Trick Room as well. Specs Flutter with Trick Room is actually, I get one off in the set in the tournament today. So, and Booster Energy is also speed control, right? Anyways, going against Alex though, really, really amazing person, really, really amazing player. His team though, and again, so me and Alex are the only 2 undefeateds left in the. Goth also has Trick Room, yeah. So Alex is me and him are both guaranteed in Top Cut. So no matter who wins, we're gonna be on the opposite sides of Top Cut. No matter who wins, just throwing that out there. So I wouldn't have to play him until finals, but I would have to play him in Top Cut if he wins his first round of Top Cut. And I win my first round. So that being said, I have to play the matches without revealing anything. I actually just thought about scooping to Alex. I told him that. I was like, we are going to have to play. Why would we either of us reveal anything, you know? And so what I told him, I was like, I'm just going to play our set like the most standard. And what I did for our Swiss games was I just tried to trick him. Is this closed team sheet? No, it's open team sheets best of 3. This is the same rules as regionals. So what I did against Alex, his team was Tornadus, Urshifu, Fluttermane, Booster. It was Booster Flutter, Bandit Hisui Arcanine. What else was it? It was Bandit Arcanine, Flutter, Urshi, Torn, like Chi-Yu. It doesn't get more aggressive than that. And Rillaboom, right? And so I'm like, fuck, it's so aggressive. What tourney was this team first place? Premier Challenge yesterday in NorCal. So his team was like sorry. Torn, Urshi, Flutter, Arc. It wasn't Chi-Yu, it was Shenpao. It was Sash, Shenpao, and Rillaboom. So I'm like, it's so aggressive. Oh, it's so aggressive. So what I do, again, you don't want to reveal anything. We're both in Top Cut. I don't need to reveal shit about how my team works. So both games, I lead Goth Flutter and just fucking Trick Room. Like, Trick Room. You can't stop both of them, bro. You can't stop both of them. And part of me is really excited at the prospects of playing against THATSA on day 1 San Antonio. Yo, so this is a funny story. I went to Dallas in 2020 regionals, and I was rooming with James Beck, Diamond, and another Utah player. No joke. Me and Josh, like, practice for this event. We are rooming together. We build all our teams together. round 1 of Dallas. This is that like 1,000. How many people were in Dallas? Was it like 700? It was so many people. I fight Josh in round 1. Right? And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? And our game goes to time, and I win. Right? And round 2, I fight the other guy I'm rooming with. And I win that. And I was like, God damn it. Like, if I have to fight James round 3, I didn't fight James round 3. But yeah, it was ridiculous. James Tang Moxie. Justin Tang follows me on Twitter, but I haven't met him in person yet. He's a cool guy. I think he's really good for the game. Moxie's cool. Moxie just got 100K on YouTube. Good for him. But anyways, we're going up against Alex. And his team is just like crazy all-in aggression. But I'm just like, I'm getting up Trick Room, bro. My Goth has Dragon Terra, right? So I think it's actually really, really good. Because like, what are you going to use against Goth? You'd like the Shadow Ball when I go Dragon, it's neutral, right? So are you going to Moonblast it? Well, that's not super effective. I won't die. I'll get a Citrus. Citrus Goth with Dragon Terra is so good because it makes it so Mons like have to really overcommit and double into that slot. And if they do double into that slot, you know, if they're not hitting your teammate, Trick Room, it goes up. And then you kill the Goth, and then the Torkoal comes out and the game's over, right? Against that sort of team where it was like Torn, Urshi, like Shen Pao, Rilla, like you get the Torkoal out, it's over. So I get up the Trick Room, and I beat Alex. I think I got the 2-0 in Swiss. Just he got Torkoaled pretty hard. I didn't really have to really show that much of how my team worked. That being said, his team has great options into mine, but I couldn't tell him until like after the tournament, you know? And he definitely had ways to like put pressure on me, but I didn't want to reveal that much. Anyway, so we're going into Top Cut. We're going to be going in. Anyways, that was Swiss. So you can see at the end of Swiss, I was 4-0. Remember, game 1, that stuff happened. Game 2, I beat Tyler, who ended up getting Top Cut. Round 3, I ended up fighting AJ. They ended also getting up Top Cut. And round 4, I ended up fighting Alex, who also got Top Cut, right? Now, see, like, I think you're talking about you would expect Goth to have Heal Pulse, right? There's no, like, backstep. There's no backstep on this team. What am I Heal Pulsing? Like, the Life Orb chip of the Torkoal needs to use 2 attacks. Eruption, they're dead. Eruption, they're dead. If it isn't like a board state where like Torkoal like double taps their whole team, I don't even go that route, right? So if you have a team that's like super bulky with like Melodics and like Dusclopses and like, I don't even know, like bulky McBulkerson's like Conkeldur's Iron Hands, I don't go Torkoal into that because Eruption won't Oko them. I only really do the Torkoal thing when you have like Shen Pao, Rillaboom, Landorus, you know, stuff like that. There's no like you'd be better off with Gothitelle doing a weaker Eruption. First of all, Gothitelle's also faster than Torkoal. Sorry, so that means in Trick Room, I'd go a weaker Eruption and then Heal Pulse. It wouldn't really work. You'd be better off actually just going Eruption and then having Gothitelle just join in on the damage with a Psychic. This Gothitelle's like heavy special attack investment. You can see we're modest. So we actually do like a ton of damage with this Goth. I think we all sit in either Simulator or Cart and see the obvious play and mentally scream, you win if you do this, but then they don't do it, and then you win. It's not as satisfying with win IMO, but being able to float trade a 1 to 2 turns ahead effectively has given me a little less stress in seeing how to win conditions can be met. I feel like the biggest thing is people get into not like a fight or flight mentality, but they think I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. What I like to do, which is one of the reasons why I think I did well in this tournament, because we're going to be going to Top Cut, right? This is the Top Cut. This is the standings, and this is Swiss, or the Top Cut pairings, you know. One of the reasons why I was able to beat the same people again is because I took every single game at my pace. And so if we're playing a best of 3, and I force you, I'm forcing you to make a read. I can make a play that's like pretty good. I don't even have to do the good plays yet. I can do a play that's pretty good. Like if I can force you into doubling into a Mon that has Protect, is Top Cut still time? I don't think so, but like I don't really know. Games never go to time in VGC. You just play by the rules of the game. But if I can force you into making a bad play to get an advantage, that's a win. You have to realize like you can take that as a win. Like I'm forcing you to be bad to beat me. That means that when you play normally, you can't beat me, right? So over the course of the set, if I have to generally twist your mind into realizing you have to start taking those risks, and when it's finally time for you to take those risks, when you are in that fight or flight situation, you can punish them. You have to be like comfortable taking the small L's, realizing like your opponent has to like double up in here. They have to do this. They have to make this read. And you let them have those. You let them have those small victories. You let them have game 1 or you let them have game 2. But in game like 3, you know, they're at the point where they're like, fuck, like they know I have to do this. I know I have to do this. It worked last time. Are they going to do it again? Are they not? Are they? And so like if they're not used to being in that situation, you know, the player with more experience does usually come out on top. Oh yeah, it's free switching. That's like the big thing about like restrictive formats. You couldn't just KO stuff in VGC 2016 or 2019. If you KO'd stuff with like your primal, if you had like primal Groudon on the board and you KO'd something like incorrectly, well, they were bringing in their Kyogre and you were fucked, right? Same thing goes for Kyogre. Kyogre KO'd something, but the Groudon wasn't out yet. You get fucked, right? You have to actually like KO things with your partner when using Ogre and then swap out your Ogre in the same turn so they can't bring in their Groudon so you can then still keep that pin, right? There's a lot of like conditioning that goes into it, I think, that people don't really talk about. But you have to be like comfortable taking the small L's to condition them into a play style that is, 1, outside of their comfort zone, 2, something that like is more in your comfort zone, and then like 3, if you can get your opponent to win in ways that aren't necessarily the way that they want to win, you can let them win. But if you make the flowchart for them winning something that isn't normal for them, they'll fumble the bag if they're not experienced. They'll mess it up. They like if they have like a Trick Room team, like let's say we're playing against a hard Trick Room guy, and you can say, bro, I will just take the L, but I will stop that Trick Room every turn. You can click Expanding Force, you can click Expanding Force, Degleam, all those things. Just hit me in the face, but I'm not letting you Trick Room, right? There's a lot of times where they might still do it, even though like they can't, and they might mess it up. Where it's like, bro, I was letting you have it. You could have the win, you know. And they're so locked into doing the things that they've practiced that they haven't practiced like winning in other ways. Like make the plays that force your opponent to like question like your sanity, you know. Anyways, we're gonna be talking about Top Cut right now, going up against AJ in the first round of Top Cut. Again, like I said, I think they're very, very good. So AJ is right there. And so this is the person that was using the really cool Greninja with Annihilate team, who in game 1 I played very standard and I beat, and then in game 2, you know, I just let them Trick Room. You know, I forced a situation where they had to Trick Room to win. I let them Trick Room and just roll with Torkoal. So in this matchup, I went with Weezing Roaring Moon, Torkoal, and Flutter in the back. So the reason behind that was Weezing and Roaring Moon are going to stop any sort of ape things because you're turning off like a lot of what makes ape great. And if they want to go like Greninja stuff, Greninja's loaded dice, not sash, so I can just take out their Greninja. If they want to go into the Armorage is not that good versus Roaring Moon, so like I can get the Entity off the board, or I can get the Armorage off the board, and again, we have the Torkoal in the back if we need it, but we don't necessarily need it. And you need to lead Weezing, though. You need to lead Weezing against that sort of team because they have the Entity. And you don't want Entity to activate the Psychic Surge to be able to enable the Sneasel to come in and activate Unburden, right? So you need to lead Weezing to stop some things. You need to lead Roaring Moon because it's such a good matchup against most of their mons. And again, if I lead Roaring Moon and you lead like Entity, Sneasler, all I have to do is like just Terrastalize, kill your Entity, next turn kill your Sneasler. Easy peasy. And then I have like Flutter in the back to clean up. I have Torkoal in the back if you set Trick Room, something weird happens. And also their Entity doesn't have Protect, so it's a lot easier to solve those flowcharts. I can just double into that Entity whenever I want to get it off the board. So game 1 goes pretty well. Game 2, I decide to do the exact same lead, and they actually make a really, really good change. They lead Entity Annihilate, and they see my Roaring Moon and my Weezing, and they actually just turn 1, go like Helping Hand, Earthquake the Annihilate. They're trying to get this Weezing off the board so they can win with Sneasel in the back. And I think it's the right change that needed to be made. Up until that point, they hadn't actually seen the EV investment on my Weezing, which is still heavy defense, as you can see right here. But, you know, they forced me to have full EV investment in defense. If they would have crit that Weezing and took the Weezing off the board, they would have then been able to activate their Psy Surge, bring their Sneasel, and have a game plan. So I really like the game plan changes they made in that one. And it did end up coming down to, like, you know, a couple mons in the back. I still felt in control. I ended up getting a burn on their Annihilate early on with my Weezing. I only missed 1 Will-O-Wisp all day out of, like, 10. So that's also pretty lucky. But that's also like the accuracy for that move. So, yeah, anyways, they played really well, and I like the changes they made over the course of the set in a matchup that I would say is pretty unwinnable. So being able to see like the small situations where they could win if they played correctly and lean into those crits and force me to still play the game correctly as well, like they're killing it as like a player in my opinion. And it's just a matter of time before they're winning everything. But that being said, we're going into the finals, which is me versus Alex again. And this is where it gets a little bit dicey, because I beat Alex last time with just Trick Room stuff. I didn't really have to show that much about how my team really worked. And so Alex the whole time like sat and just like thought about how to beat my team. And like I said, he has the tools to do it. His Arcanine is an amazing check to my Torkoal. If he saves his Arcanine in the back, which is like fire and rock, and he brings it out after I get up Trick Room, I have to Earth Power it. I can't just click Eruption versus that Arcanine. I have to Earth Power it because he can do a couple different things. If he just like leaves it there, soaks the Eruption, Rock Slides me, I die. He could also just like E-Speed me, chunk me to where my Eruption doesn't do any damage. Like I have to Earth Power it, right? So then on that turn where I have to Earth Power it, he just goes normal Terra, doesn't die, kills me back with the Rock Slide, and then I lose the game. That's his win con. We told him that after, you know. But the Trick Room won't work anymore if he knows that. So in game 1, I lead off with Regieleki and Flutter. I think I lead Regieleki Flutter. It might have been, no, it was Regieleki Roaring Moon. No, it was Regieleki Flutter. Turn 1 was sick for me. Dude, I go Lecky Flutter, and I hit him with the El Clasico. Like, I'm like, we're playing for keeps now. And it's a Mystic Water Urshifu and a Sash Shempao. And I go, like, E-Web, drop the speed on that Shempao, chunk that Urshi, D-Gleam, double KO, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Holy moly. Like, we love to see that. And, yeah, that was cool. And then, I'm trying to think of, like, what else happens. I'm trying to think of, like, how the rest of our set went down. I ended up winning a game pretty easily. And then he made a drastic change in how he handled the second game. And he won the second game, I think. It was either he won the first game or the second game. I don't really remember. But we go to game 3. Right? And I haven't lost a single set all day. And this is like my 4th or 5th game versus him, because that's just how this goes. And he leads Shempao Urshi again. And I lead... What do I lead into that Shempao Urshi this time? Because like I'm kind of out of options at this point. I lead Flutter. What did I lead? He did a disrespectful lead to me in game 3. I'm trying to remember it though. I think I lead Flutter and I think, oh yeah. So I lead Flutter Goth, and he leads Shempao Urshi. Now, both of his mons have Protect on the Shempao and the Urshi. The Shempao also has Ghost Terror, which he has not used all set. And he's fought against his Goth lead like 3 times, and he's not once terrestrialized at Ghost. Listen to this, bros. All right. Shempao Urshi versus Flutter Goth. I'm going Fake Out into that Shempao Trick Room. My idea is that like he's gonna really over-respect the Goth, because the past like couple games I've like swapped out the Flutter for the Torkoal and done stuff with the Goth. So I think he's gonna try and nuke the Goth, right? Because the Flutters, I think he's going like Aqua Jet / like Icicle Crash into the Goth, expecting me to go Dragon Terror. That's what I'm thinking. So I'm gonna Fake Out the Shempao, and I'm gonna Trick Room with my Flutter. So what happens is he goes Ghost Terra. I whiff my Fake Out into the Ghost Terra, and then he kills my Flutter with the freaking Surging Strikes, bro. And I'm like, what? Why would you? Oh, and I was like, oh, I could have just fucking Dazzling Gleam that damn Urshifu, bro. And so I get up, no Trick Room. I get up, no, it's bad. I get up, no Trick Room, and I lose my Flutter. In game 3. And I'm looking at the mons I have. So Flutter's gone. And I have Weezing, Goth, and Torkoal. And his team is those 6 hyper... I'm out of damage, right? So how do we win? I didn't even do damage on the first turn. How do we win that? Well, the answer is very slowly. The answer is send out Torkoal. What does send out Torkoal do in that situation? It forces a little 50-50. You gotta respect the Torkoal a little bit, right? Because I could just erupt in your face. You gotta respect it a little bit. But you also have to respect the Goth. What if I protect my Torkoal and I Trick Room? You really gotta respect that Goth, because if you get the Trick Room up, it's game over. So Goth is a higher danger level. So, I wanted to set the Sun. So Sun's up. I protect Goth, which don't do that. There's an Urshifu on the board. Torkoal swaps out for Weezing, right? Weezing turns off the abilities. Urshifu can't. They double into the Goth, whose Protect is active. And now we have a Weezing board with Sun, right? With Sun. And we're doing stuff. So he goes for the all-in on the Goth with the Icicle Crash and all the damage. He does not get the flinch. The Trick Room goes up. A couple burns happen. A couple psychics happen. Torkoal comes in. Erupts out. Big wins. I didn't let that abysmal turn 1 get to me. Holy moly. That was rough. It was so hard. What won me that game was he terrestrialized his Shenpao. So when he did bring the Arcanine inevitably in the mid game, which he needed to do after I got the Trick Room up, it couldn't terrestrialize. I just Earth Powered it and I won. So it was good stuff. Do you like the new Macho Pokemon? It's okay. How did I win? All right, so like I said, Goth, Torkoal. Torkoal sets the Sun, swaps out for Weezing. Weezing neutralizing gas turns off Urshifu's Unseen Fist, so I can protect, get a protect, and now we have a board state where it's Shenpao and Urshifu versus in the Sun versus Goth. So Goth gets up Trick Room in that situation because we're Citrus. Did he have Fairy Terra Arcanine? It was normal Terra, banded E-Speed. So I get up the Trick Room. You can't. So like Shenpao does half with Icicle Crash, Citrus, and then Urshifu can't break the Goth from there because it's Sunny. And then we win. I've won mid seasons. I've won Premier Challenges. I've top cut regionals. But like this win feels really important because I won every set. Normally when you like do well in an event or top cut like a big event, you take some L's. Bro, I just handed out W's all day. Like straight up. I was just like, I didn't even have to like dip into like the full power. Like I didn't even really have to like this. I'm not gonna say I autopiloted, right? But like I was just like my base level of like, yo, we doing this? Like you know the F it we ball? Like the F it we ball was just good enough, you know? What was the moon set? It's up there. It's heavy speed. It's full speed. I outsped a booster bundle. I outsped a booster flutter with this thing. It's good. You need to go full speed when you use this guy. So it's like the F it we ball attitude is very good with this team. It goes very well with my playstyle. This is one of the, this is one of the few times where like playstyles fusing with like a good spot in the meta is like, this is really nice. I feel like no one's playing the game this way. I haven't seen anyone approach Reg E this way yet. Obviously, Roaring Moon Weezing is a core that people use, yes, but they don't use Goth and they don't use Alecki, and those teams don't use a Torkoal, right? I don't think that there's any other team that's really like this. Is it risky to have a ground weakness and half the team? Well, that's the thing is it's like, I want you to think about that, because this is another thing you can always ask yourself. So like, when you see an issue that rises like that, you need to have multiple ways of dealing with it. Multiple ways. Because you can't just be like, well, my Lucky has Terra Ice. I never have to care about ground weaknesses. Because there are matchups where you just can't bring Lucky. So you can't rely on that. So you need about 3 to 4 ways to deal with a ground weakness. So one of them is Terra Ice Lucky. You gotta also think to yourself, what's the most common ground move? And is a ground move from a Pokemon that doesn't stab that ground move even a problem? So like an Earth Power Heatran, is it a problem? Maybe only if it's Life Orb Heatran, but then Life Orb Heatran comes with like a whole other set of weaknesses your opponent could have, right? So let's think about it. So that would mean the most common ground move is Landorus, Scarf Landorus. So this just kills that. They're dead, right? But let's find other ways to deal with ground moves. Flying Terra, catching them on a Wisp, Grass Terroring to mitigate the damage from their ground move. Oh my gosh, it's almost like I play the game. And then Wisping them. And then you bring all your other ground weaknesses and not give a shit, right? Trick Room. And then you kill said ground mon user. Are these 100% checks to ground moves? No, but they're a bunch of little soft ways to mitigate ground damage and ground Pokemon that deal that ground damage that give ourselves just a little bit, they relieve a little bit of the pressure from each of the mons to have to solve all the ground issues himself. What would you change about the Weezing? I don't know if I'm 100% set on Acid Spray. I don't need Clear Smog. Clear Smog actually does not help. I used Clear Smog at one of the regionals, or one of the events, I did not like it. I like Acid Spray more than the others because if I catch the hands on an Acid Spray, Goth just like pops it with Psychic. Same thing goes for like a lot of mons. If you catch a Torn with an Acid Spray, Goth just kills it with Psychic. And they're just like, wait, what the fuck? And it's like, I know, right? That's so good. Against Ogerpons. So, like, the reason why Acid Spray is good on Weezing, this is a really good question. I like Acid Spray on Weezing because Weezing can actually 1v2 a lot of mons. You put the Wisp on their physical attacker, and you can put the Wisp on their special attacker too, or whatever you have. But, like, you're going to do incremental amounts of damage with this Acid Spray to where, like, I fought against another Weezing player, and it came down to Weezing versus Weezing. And you know what Weezing had the win? The one with Acid Spray, because eventually it just gets more damage. And then, yeah, there's also other situations in, like, you can see, like, my Goth outspeeds my Weezing. So, like, in Trick Room, I can go against, like, Slormon. So, for example, there was one person that had like a Fire Terra Heatran, and it was like at about 80%, and I Acid Sprayed it, and I Psychic'd it, and it died. And the guy was like, what? And I was like, you know, like, what are you gonna do? That wasn't at this tournament, that was about a week ago, right? But yeah, I think Acid Spray is really nice. You need Taunt, you need Protect, you need Acid Spray. I think all the moves for these mons, I don't know if I like the Trick Room on Flutter. I still might go Power Gem, but I think having the illusion of Trick Room is really good there. Perish was also an option as well. So there are some matchups where Perish with like having Goth as an option does work, but I'm just not. I don't think you need to do those yet. On OTS forces you to switch out. So I'm with him Power Gem. No. So like the thing about that is it lets us create different danger levels, right? So if I have this Flutter and when I lead Roaring Moon and Flutter, and you see that I could set Tailwind or Trick Room, and you don't know which one I'm gonna set, that forces you into the situation where you have to try to guess what I'm doing because I have all the power. I could do all of those options. You don't know which one I'm going to do, right? Do you think I have a Lecky Weezing in the back, or do you think I have Goth Torkoal, right? Are you weaker to Trick Room? If so, you respect the Flutter Mane slot, which means my Roaring Moon isn't as threatened, which means I don't even need to set that Tailwind. The threat of the Tailwind, the threat of the Trick Room means I don't need to set either, and I'm fine. I don't need to waste the Terra. I can take a free turn, that's a +1 free turn, that's where the name comes from, to do whatever I want. And you're respecting the Flutter. What's Flutter weak against? Poison attack? Swap and Weezing. Or, you know, Steel attack? Swap and Torkoal. You know, you get the idea, right? I am able to control the situation more by having that Trick Room because it forces you to actually respect those situations regardless of if I click anything.